Hello? Hello.
Congratulations! You've made it to the
Ato ni Las.
8th and final video in the C# programming course. In this video, we're going to be talking about classes. Classes are
Okay.
extremely useful because they allow us to build our own data structures. Now, what do I mean by that? Well,
Okay.
C# is an object-oriented programming language. This means that we try
Yes.
to use code to describe objects. And we mostly do this using classes. Say for example we are creating a video game and would like to add some cute cats to the game. Well, in
Oh.
this case we would create a cat class that tries to describe what a cat is. Think of it like we are creating a blueprint for a cat. Then
Okay.
when we want to spawn a cat into our world, we do this based on the blueprint. This is called creating an instance of the class. Now
Oh.
that might sound very abstract, but I promise you it's going to make sense in just a second. In fact, let's just have a look at how to create a class right away. But first, this video is sponsored by the Unity Asset Store. Soon the Asset Store will be launching a new feature called Support the Creator. This feature allows users to give the creator of an asset more than the original asking price. This also
Okay.
includes free assets, and 100% of the additional amount will go directly to the creator. So keep an eye on the Asset Store and Unity's socials for this announcement. Time to make assets that help you with your projects. And
Damn.
to celebrate this new feature, we've just launched a free 2D Mega Pack on the Asset Store. The pack includes all 2D assets we've ever
Okay.
created for tutorials or game projects. Everything from environments to characters to various item sprites and UI, plus a few sounds to get you started. And of course, the pack will use the Support the Creator feature as soon as it goes live. So I definitely encourage you to go check out the pack on the Unity Asset Store. Astro 2K for his support on Patreon. So to create a cat class, meaning
Okay.
the blueprint for our cat, we first need to think about how we want to define a cat in our program, and then try to describe it through code. In my case, I think a cat should at least have a name and an age. And these are things that we can describe using variables. We probably also want our cat to be able to do some things. In my case, I would like it to be able to say meow. And this is something that we can describe using a method. So let's try this out in code. To create a class in
Wait lang. Ayun, void.
In code, we first need to go outside of the program class we've been using so far. Then we write class followed by the name. In my case, I'm just gonna write cat and then some curly brackets. And that's it. We've now created a cat class.
What?
Now we can add some curly bracket. In code, describe using a method. So let's try this out in code. To create a class in code, we first need to go outside of the program class we've been using so far. Then we write class followed by the name. In my case, I'm just gonna write cat and then some curly brackets. And that's it. We've now created a I'm just
Sorry.
gonna write cat and then some curly brackets. And that's it. We've now created a cat class. Now we can add some code in here that describes a cat. So we'll create variables for the name and age. And note that I'm putting public in front of the variables here. We'll talk about why later in the video. Then we can create some methods as well. Let's create a meow method that simply prints out that the cat says meow. Note
Okay.
that I'm putting public in front of the method here as well. Again, we'll talk about why later. And that's it for the blueprint of our class. If we just run our program now, nothing is going to happen though. This is because
Wait. Ano yung last time with methods? May ginawa ako. Word counter. That is static int. This needs an int. Kailangan void. Okay.
after creating the blueprint, we also need to make a cat object based on that blueprint. Again, we call this creating an instance of the class. And this is also what makes classes so powerful, because we can create many instances from the same class. In our case, we could create 2 different cats using the same cat class. To do this in code, we simply go to where we would like to create our cats. In this case, let's just do it inside of main. And from here, it's just like creating a variable. We write the type of the variable first. In this case, it's a type that we've created ourselves called cat. Then the name, I'm just gonna call it cat1. Then we can set it equal to a new cat, open and close some parentheses, and put in a semicolon. And there we go. We've now created an instance of the cat class called cat1. From here we can access properties and methods inside of the class by using the dot. This allows us to set the name and the age and to call the meow method. As you can see, cat1 is a kitten named Cat Stevens. And we can easily create another cat with different properties. Cat2 is an older
Okay.
cat named Meowly Cyrus. So that's the basic idea. I know that this is probably a bit hard to wrap your head around at the moment, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it in no time. So let's jump into VS Code and try it out ourselves. So let's imagine that we're making a game in the fantasy genre and we want to create a wizard. Well, in this case, we would probably create some kind of wizard class. So to do that, we go outside of our default program class. I'm just going to go to the top here. We write class, then the name of the class. In this case, it's going to be wizard. And then we open and close two curly brackets.
That's it.
And in here, we can start to describe our wizard through code. So first off, let's create some variables. So I'm going to create a public string storing the wizard's name. I'm also going to create a string which is going to store the wizard's favorite spell. I'm also
Okay.
going to create an integer which is going to keep track of how many spell slots we have left. And finally, different wizards might have different experience levels and might be able to level up as we proceed in the game. So I'm also going to create a public float called experience. And this is actually already enough for us to start using this wizard class. We've now declared this class and are ready to instantiate it. So let's go inside of main here and try to create a wizard based on this class. I'm going to type in wizard, then the name of the variable. In my case, I'm just going to go wizard1. And I'm going to set it equal to a new
Hey,
wizard.
wait. Ay, ito siya. Ah.
And at this point, we can use the dot, so wizard1 dot, to access the different properties that we've created for this class. So I'm
Sa'yo ng methods. Equals get type spell slot. Oo nga no.
going to first off set the name to something like Perry Hopper. I'm also going to
Okay.
fill out the other variables, so we'll do the favorite spell. I'm going to do unexpecto patronum. We can also give this wizard some spell slots, so we'll go
Simplify.
wizard1 dot spell slots equals, and let's just default this to 2. And finally, we can set the experience level of our wizard to 0. And remember, whenever we're changing a float, it's a good idea to put an F right after the number. When we're just setting it equal to 0, this doesn't matter, but if we were using a decimal place here, it is going to give us an error unless we remember to do that. But again, I'm just going to set it equal to 0. So we've now declared a wizard class, we've created an instance of it, and set a bunch of the properties. But the wizard is still pretty boring because there are no methods for us to use. So let's go ahead and create some methods that describe what we want our wizard to be able to do. So we'll go inside of our wizard class here, and we'll create a public void. And let's give him
Void.
the ability to cast a spell. So I'm going to write cast spell here. And let's just print out that we cast a spell. So we'll go console.writeLine, then the name of the wizard plus casts, and then the name of the favorite spell. But remember, casting a spell requires a spell slot. So right after we've cast the spell, let's go ahead and decrease our spell slots by 1. So we can go spell
Plus
slots
equals.
minus equal 1,
Equal.
or just spell slots minus minus for short. So now every time we cast a spell, we're going to decrease our spell slots. In fact, let's try this out. So inside of our main here, we'll go and access wizard1. We'll call the cast spell method. And to show that this changes our spell slots, let's just print out how many spell slots we have before and after. So I'm going to go console.writeLine,
Database
Spell
siya
slots.
basically.
and then wizard1.spellslots.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this line and paste it after we cast the spell as well. So if we now run this program, we can
Okay.
see that we start out with 2 spell slots. Then Perry Hopper casts Unexpecto Patronum, and now we only have 1 spell slot left. Awesome. And
Okay.
we can actually use this to determine whether or not we're even able to cast a spell. So inside of our cast spell method here, let's create an if statement that says that we only want to cast a spell if our spell slots variable is greater than 0. So we need to have at least 1 spell slot in order to cast a spell. And if this is the
magalagay ng
case, well,
exception.
then we can go ahead and put in our spell casting code.
Else.
And if it's not the case, so we'll go ahead and put in an else here, well, then we can write out something like console.writeLine, the name of the wizard is out of spell slots, and therefore we can't cast the spell. And even cooler, whenever we cast a spell, we're probably gaining some valuable wizard experience. So let's go ahead, when we cast this spell, other than just reducing the spell slots, let's also increase our experience a bit. So I'm going to increase, so plus equals our experience with something like 0.3. And if we test this out now, we can go into main,
Ano yun?
something like point bit. So I'm going to increase, so these spell slots, let's also increase our experience a bit. So I'm going to increase, so plus equals our experience with something like 0.3. And if we test this out now, we can go into main here, and let's remove these console.write lines here. And let's just try casting, say, 3 spells, and then print out the amount of experience we've gained. So
This
console dot
ano? Pang sa games.
write line experience, and then wizard1 dot experience. So now we're just casting 3 spells and checking the experience. And if we run the program, we can see that Perry Hopper casts Unexpecto Patronum 2 times, and then he's out of spell slots. And that's right, because if we go ahead and check, we set the spell slots to 2, then we cast 2 spells, and the 3rd time it simply says that he's out of spell slots. And therefore, we only increase the experience by 0.32 times, and so our overall experience gained is 0.6. Awesome! Of course, it would make sense for us to create a way that our wizard can gain back spell slots. So to do that, let's go ahead and create another public void, create another method here, and let's call it meditate. And this allows our wizard to sit down and
Meditate.
let's go ahead and create another public void, create another method here, and let's call it meditate.
Wait, oh, inside siya. Wait. That is the class. This is a method.
And this allows our wizard to sit down and chill out for a bit to regain some spell slots. So in here we write console.writeLine, then the name of the wizard, meditates to regain spell slots. And then we set the spell slots back to 2. It's that easy. So now we can try casting these spells here, and then we can maybe try meditating, and then casting some more spells, and seeing how much experience we end up with. So let's try and run this program. We can see that we cast 2 spells, then we run out of spell slots, then we meditate to regain them, and we're able to cast 2 more spells. And our overall experience is now 1.2. Awesome! Now, while this code is working, we're currently using a lot of lines to create a new wizard. So at this point, it would be a good idea to create a class constructor for our wizard. Constructors basically allow us to choose what happens when a class is created. Most of the time, we use this to set some variables right when the class is instantiated, just like we're doing here. For example, when creating a wizard, we always want him to have a name and a favorite spell. It doesn't make any sense to have a wizard where these variables haven't been assigned a value. Also, we probably want to make these spell slots and experience a default value instead of having to set it every time we're creating a wizard. And we can make it quick and easy to do these things using a constructor. So to create a constructor, we go to our class, and I'm just going to create this right after our variables. The syntax for this is actually pretty easy. We go public, then we write the name of the class, so in this case, wizard. Then we open and close some parentheses and some curly brackets. So notice that the syntax here is almost the same as if we were creating a method. We're just not writing the return type. And when writing a constructor, I like to think of it like we're writing a method that is called right when the class is created. So what does this allow us to do? Well, it allows us to simply set our spell slots equal to 2 right in here. And we can set our experience to 0 as well. So now we don't need to do that down here, because it's automatically done when we're creating a new wizard. But I'd also like us to be able to put in a name and a favorite spell inside of these parentheses, instead of having to do it on separate lines like this where we might forget. So to do that, we go up here, and just like when we're creating parameters for a method, we can create parameters for a constructor as well. So I'm going to type in string here, and I'm going to allow ourselves to type in a name. However, if I call this variable name, then both the variable up here and the parameter is going to be called name. So instead, it's pretty standard to just use an underscore here to easily differentiate between the two. So I'm going to create an underscore name and a string called underscore favorite spell. And now inside of our constructor, we can set our name equal to the name that was passed in. So name equals underscore name, and our favorite spell equal to the favorite spell that was passed in. So favorite spell equals underscore favorite spell. And what this allows us to do now is down here, when we are creating our wizard, instead of these two lines, we pass in this data as parameters. So the name is going to be Perry Hopper, and the favorite spell is going to be Unexpecto Patronum. Awesome. And you can see just how much cleaner that makes Patronum. Awesome. And you can see just how much. So the name is going to be Perry Hopper, and the favorite spell is going to be Unexpecto Patronum. Awesome. And you can see just how much cleaner that makes creating a new wizard. And if we run our program, it works exactly the same way. Now I'm just going to get rid of some of the code here to simplify it a bit. So we're creating a wizard and we're casting one spell, and we can easily create a second one. So we'll go wizard, wizard2 equals a new wizard. For the name here, I'm going to type in Glyndulf Merlinson, and the favorite spell here is going to be Abracadabra. And we're going to have him cast the spell as well. Awesome. And again, while this code is working, so far all the variables and methods we have created have begun with the word public. If we have a look at our class here, all of our variables start with public, and all of our methods do as well. Well, this is called an access modifier, and it defines where we can access the variable and methods from.
Okay.
So far, there are two access modifiers that you should know: public and private. Public means that we can access it from outside the class. This means that we can change the variables and call the methods by using the dot, just like we've been doing inside of main. We can go wizard1 dot and see all of the methods and properties. Private, on the other hand, means that we can only access the variable or method from inside the class itself. Notice how our spell slots aren't appearing here. That's because I just changed that to private. And so you can't see it from outside of the class. But we can still access it from the inside. So all of our methods changing this variable inside the class will be just fine. And because the spell slots and experience should only be changed by casting spells and meditating, it would probably be a good idea to change the access modifier of these variables to private. So I'm going to do that. One thing to note though is that we can also simply remove this keyword. This is the same as writing private. If nothing is here, it just defaults to private. So for now, I recommend that you do this explicitly just to be really clear about what's going on, but you can of course do the shorthand version and not write anything. Now, another thing that we used a lot in our previous video on methods was the static keyword. We currently see this down here before our main method. Now, the static keyword can be used in addition to public and private. When we add static to a variable, it means that the variable belongs to the type itself rather than to a specific instance. So what does that mean? Well, I like to think of it this way. When we add static to a variable, that variable is now shared by all the instances of the class. This can be really handy. Say we want to keep track of how many wizards we've created. In this case, we could use a static variable to do this. So inside of our wizard class, let's create a public static integer and call it something like count. It's standard practice to always capitalize the first letter in a static variable. Of course, whenever we create a wizard, the constructor is called, and so we can go into the constructor here and increase our count variable by 1. So every time we're creating a wizard, our count is going to be increased by 1. And whenever we'd like to know how many wizards we've created, we can simply access count by using the wizard type. Let's try this out in main. So if I go down here, after we've created the two wizards, I can simply write out how many wizards we've created by going console.writeLine and then passing in wizard.count. See how we're not referring to a specific wizard instance, we're just accessing the general wizard class. This is what a static variable allows us to do.
Wait, what?
See how we're not referring to a specific wizard instance, we're just accessing the general wizard class. This is what a static variable allows us to do. And the same thing applies to methods. When we use console.writeLine, we're accessing a console class and calling a static method called writeLine. We don't need to create an instance of console to do this. So you'll definitely encounter the static keyword a lot when programming, and it does take a bit of
Okay.
getting used to, but now you
Yeah.
know what the general idea is when you see it. And if we
Okay.
just try and run this program now, we can see that Perry Hopper casts an Expecto Patronum, Glyndolf Merlinson casts Abracadabra, and we have created 2 wizards. Awesome! Now, since this is the last video, this week's challenge
This is complicated.
is going to be a bit different. I of course encourage you to play around with classes. In fact, I think you should expand on the idea of a wizard
Yeah.
class to include functionality like drinking potions, casting more spells, taking damage, and so on. But most importantly, I challenge you to think of a project that you would like to make and then get started making it. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
too complicated. In fact, I recommend
Damn.
that you keep it fairly simple. But you now have the skills to start creating your own programs. There's of
Damn.
course so much more to learn, but it's time that you start putting your skills to good use.
Thank you,
So whether you want to
Rapis.
continue making console applications
Yeah.
like calculators, text-based RPGs, or to-do lists, or you have a specific software you want to get into, just get started. And of
Thank
course,
you.
if you want to make video games, I really recommend you check out our video series on creating your first game from scratch using Unity. It uses
Wow.
C# and you should be more than ready to start that journey. We'll of course have a
Yo,
link for
yeah.
that in the description. So good luck on your future development endeavors,
Damn.
and remember that the most important thing is to have fun. And that's pretty much it for this video and this series. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Also, don't forget to check out our 2D Mega Pack orders who donated
Damn.
in
Kinda missed the whole thing. I've enjoyed
to
it.
put in a
I have to understand classes, man. It's complicated. Oh my god. Okay. How to make class blueprint or template of creating things called objects. Oh, okay. Chico Cubic, making recipes. To use it to create an object from the class. My car, my drive. Wait, what the fuck? Imagine you're coding a game, a player classes. Blueprint the main make. Again? So it stores data, so it's almost the same as a list. Oh shit. What does it differ from in functions? Is almost same lang. Okay. Combines data, functions, so it combines data and functions. Just bundle data action together, one thing. Okay. Soda factory will discover the soda is as I made out can it do. Okay.
name underscore here to easily differentiate between the Patron are all still it means that the variable belongs to the type. We add static to a variable. That variable is now shared by all the instances of the class. This can be really handy. Say we want to keep track of how many wizards we've created. In this case, we could use a static variable to do
Yeah.
this. So inside of our wizard class, let's create a public static integer and call it something like count. It's standard practice to always capitalize the first letter in a static allows us to do. fact, our video series on creating your first game from scratch using Unity. It's a good mega as well. So now we're going to be called name. So name is going to be Perry Hopper, and the favorite spell is going to be unexpecto. And again, while this code is working, so far all the variables and methods we have created have begun with the word public. If we have a look at our class here, all of our variables start with public, and all of our methods do as well. Well, this is called an access modifier, and it defines where we can access.
Oh my goodness. Explain. Public tsaka private, then yung isa
all the instances of the class.
static. Okay. Public, anyone can use outside the class. Only the class itself can use it. Public string. Speed. Okay, console return brand is hindi ko makikita to. Okay. Walang sila kasi lang ng object. You don't need to create an object to use it. Not tied to one object, but everyone can be shared by everyone. Belongs to the class itself. Not an object. You don't need to create an object to use it. Void means the function doesn't return anything, it just does something. Like, that's it. Okay. If you want to return something, you should type instead. To return something, you use a type instead of void. Get number, return 42. Principal does not prints hello, but doesn't give back a value. Okay. Okay, yes. Using system class car, public system, brand, public, private, and speed. While ano to parang a variable or something, but it's only inside, you don't see it, but it is a variable. Public function. Public integer get speed, return speed. Gives the value. So ito nag-hide lang si private, that's it. It only hides the thing. Am I right? Public shows it, okay. So it can be printed. So private cannot be printed, only can be stored. Okay. Belongs to the class, not one car. Cars are vehicle that can drive. Asan yung main? Ito yung main. show info, public static void. So gumagawa ka ng maraming function. So instead of one function itself, you're making one functions. Okay. Show info. Show info labas to. Car my car na yung ano niya, class niya. A class car. Class wizard. Okay, so class car. So kailangan na i-limit yung car. Car din yung name my car, new car. Then pag name yung car, bam. My car that brand Toyota. Okay. My car you name that brand, so na-main brand Toyota. Call void. My car drive prints driving at 60, so naka-hide yan, hindi malalaman. So value also current speed, my car get speed, so get speed ito. Okay, I get it. Scheme accessing private not allowed, my car speed is higher now. So you can access this. This is all private. Okay. So basically, class car, nag-declare ka ng car class. Then inside that class, you have brand, the speed. If you need to drive, you will give out the speed, which is 60, constant. If you get speed, you get the speed. Speed. So this one prints this, and if you get speed, you get the speed itself. Show info prints this. It's the program itself, main. Okay, static that can't returns a value, void doesn't return a value. Static and static cursor vehicles that can drive. A static void works without a car. Drive and show if just do something, no return. Just do something and no return. Drive and show info. Drive and show info. Drive. Works without getting a car. Just do something, no returns. May return ba si static? Return speed. Public or private. Imagine a car steering this wheel is public. Turn edges are private, hidden inside the car. Only the car itself know how it works. Oh, okay. Static, think of it as a driving law. All cars drive on the right side. Kasi nga guys, sure by all. No, there's a static method. Belongs to a class, not one object. Void. When you honk a horn, it makes a sound but doesn't give any feedback. So static, use static if you want to return, void if not, if you just want to do something. What am I going? Where am I going? You get a number back. Private, next ko na yung private. Private, you can't change or anything. It's just built into it. You can see it. Public, you can see it and everything. Or it's in the code. It just gets put out there. It's on general knowledge. And in the I mean static, how does this return something? Void doesn't. So static void, pwede pala yun. Static. So it gives out, okay, hindi actually, hindi siya nagre-return. Void doesn't do anything, it just reduces thing, that's it. Static. Car show garage. List car garage, list car. New list. Honda is driving 60 kilometer. Current speed is 60 kilometer. How can static? You have to create an object just uses stuff, but it's static. So static. You just wait, it's without static. Show brand. Interest sort multiple. Add 5 to 7. So after this add result, nasan yung ano? Nasan yung print? Add 5 to 7 then consult as a result. Car Toyota belongs to an object. Counter. Count equals 0. So equals 0 counter. Please share the count. Equals 3. Yes. Ang gulo ng static. So static just gives out something. Public string name, public integer name, help. Static variable shared by all players. Total players equals 0. Name equals name. Health 100. Public void attack player target. Man, I still don't get it. Ito void. After ng void, wala na siyang gagawin. Belongs to something. Paano, like, what does it mean? Needs an object. Okay, let's see here. Right, beep beep. Honk. Yep. Car, my car, new car. Must create an object. Okay. Ay, ganun ba yun? Ganun pa gumawa ng object? Ah... my car equals new car. So my car becomes what the fuck? Calls the method here. Honk belongs to my car. The object. If you don't make new car, you can't call honk. Oh. Oh, so like this. Okay. So you don't need to do this bullshit. Oh. Yeah, okay. Oh, wow. It is basically it. You need to write this full line in order to use this. Kasi same in the Namgen. You need car, which is the class. Then my car is your name. Then you make a new car. And after that, you can make my car. So you basically declare. This is how you declare objects in yeah. How so? Something made a class blueprint. Object ba tawag dito? Yeah, like this. Car. Create object using new. Yep. Sa Python, hindi mo kailangan mag-define ng class. Kailangan mo lang yung car1 equals. Yun lang yun eh. No new class function. Init method ba? Ano the way I make it just like this. Def init. Self car brand. Pwede naman din. Yeah. Okay, medyo complicated. Like literally complicated. I don't have any use case scenario for this yet. Perfect timing. Wow, okay. Student report. Pang account. This is the time to make a bank account. Shopping list. Oh nga no, yeah. Maybe you can make a bank account now. Hmm. I'll try to make one of these. I'm seeing what I can do. Bank account? Maybe bank account nga yung be the best. I'll make this. Maybe later. That's for class 7 eh. Where just for the whole tutorial, I'll just have to finish classes. Or just programs to make up for it. That's it. Yeah, I'll be back later. Make one maybe. This one. Yeah, that's it.